Good morning. So this morning, Marley might join us. Marley's feeling especially needy this morning. Um, there she is. The Mars. Okay. So good morning. So my topic today is it won't always be this way. So I'm just gonna jump right into a story. I love stories. I feel like the best way to teach, to learn, to reflect is through stories. So in 2016, I decided to leave the church. Now, I want to preface this by saying that in 2014, I quit my job as a full time English teacher. From there, I self published a book, and I had these dreams of becoming an author and traveling full time, which didn't end up panning out at that phase of my life. So when I left my job teaching, I started substitute teaching. I started tutoring to supplement my income, but that wasn't enough to sustain me. So I ended up having to give up my apartment. So when I gave up my apartment, that's when I lived in the upstairs area of one of my friend's house, lived there for a little bit. Um, that worked out for a few months, and then I had to leave her house and then stay on the couch of another one of my friends. I did that for a few months. And meanwhile, I'm still trying to build an income, still trying to figure out what my next steps were. I didn't really know. But I was still tutoring, making very minimal money. So then I moved from my friend's couch to then I moved to a lady at the church. She had just experienced surgery, so she needed someone to come and stay with her. She had 4 kids, so she needed someone to stay with her. So I ended up at this lady's house. And in the meantime, I went from tutoring and substitute teaching to now I was helping one of the ladies in the church. Helped her build her curriculum because she was building a nonprofit, did ghostwriting for her book, was writing for other people. So things are starting to happen, but the whole time in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to be full time helping this lady build her nonprofit, and then we ended up building a seminar together. So we started traveling and teaching the seminar, and all of it steeped in this church environment. So when I left the church, when I decided to leave the church, I was still living in this lady's house, um, still believing that I was going to be traveling and teaching. So, but the traveling and teaching was still under the umbrella of the church that I had attended. So when I left, things took such a quick turn very fast. And hey, John Michael. So quickly, the people that were like tolerating my decision for leaving the church, like right after I decided, I was like, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't angry. I wasn't disappointed. It was like this resolve that said, I'm just not going back. So at first, I felt like the people close to me, the people I knew, were like giving me space because they were like, oh, Amy's kind of going through a stage. So the lady that I was living with, our relationship got a little bit strained, but nothing was really happening. I was still living in her house, still tutoring, but I could tell that it was getting a little bit more uncomfortable. And right after I left the church, I had this like identity crisis. Like I knew that I wasn't going to be able to travel and teach anymore, and all the ties and all the work that I had done with this organization, like it was no more. So now I'm at this stage of, okay, well, what comes next? Because I've quit my job in teaching. I've been like trying to build something for 2 years. I don't know what to do next. So, and I knew I wanted to leave Tennessee because I was still living in Tennessee. So now I'm like at this transition point, but it was almost like this panic transition point of, I don't know what comes next. I know I don't want to go back into teaching. I don't want to go back into the high school environment. I knew that I wasn't ready to like become a full-time author, and that's something that doesn't just like, hey, you get a job as a full-time author, it lands in your lap. It doesn't work like that. So I'm like in this state of, I don't know what to do next. In the meantime, the lady I was living with spoke to me one night, and she said, essentially, I'm going to summarize it because I don't remember exactly what she said, but here's essentially what she said. You can't live with me anymore because um, because you're having a negative influence on my family. Now, mind you, negative influence kind of seems a little subjective because I literally was just going to tutor and coming home. But because my beliefs had changed, the way I looked had changed. Like I had gotten my hair cut, I had gotten earrings, and in that environment, that's just not. That is a symbol and a sign that you have fallen from grace, that you have backslidden. So when she when she made that statement, I respected it. I had been living in her home rent free for quite some time, with the thought of I'm staying here because I'm building something with this team of ladies, because she was a part of the team. This team of ladies, we're going to travel, we're going to speak, we're going to teach seminars to women. So when I left, all of that fell, and then I think she kind of thought, well, there's no purpose of you staying here. So she was like, you have to leave. And I said, okay. So she told this to me in September, at the beginning of September, and I said, okay, I'll be gone by October 1st. I have no idea where I'm going. I don't have money to get an apartment by myself. I didn't really have a solid sustaining job, and I panicked. And in the meantime, I'm applying. So I was applying for flight attendants because I really just wanted to get out. I wanted to leave Tennessee. I was like, my time here has expired. There's nothing for me. The only thing that held me here was the church I was attending. Since that's no longer, I need to move forward, but I didn't know what moving forward looked like. So I went on like two interviews. I went on an interview for United Airlines, an interview for American Airlines, and I was so sure. I was like, yes, this is my ticket out. And at that point, I was so frustrated with my life. The appeal of like having a job that just let me move and go and not have to be solid. Like I was like, yes, put me on a plane. Let me be a flight attendant. So I went to two interviews, and those interviews completely fell through. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to move to China. I'm going to move to China, and I'm going to teach English. So I'm applying to all these schools in China because I just wanted to leave. In the meantime, I'm not making any money. I'm living in an environment where I'm not essentially wanted. Then at the same time, I had just left the church. I'm losing all these relationships. I'm having strained conversations on the phone. And the whole time I'm feeling completely hopeless. And getting out of bed was so difficult because, hey, Dee, it was so difficult because I felt like I was in this heavy cloud of darkness and I wasn't going to be able to get out. And I was hopeless because I was thinking, what comes next? Like I'm thinking like I'm not going to have enough money. Like I want to get out. I have these desires, but no door is opening. And I'm like trying everything I can to get out and start something new. And it just felt like my life kept putting a dead end in front of me and saying, no. And it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. And this is September, and I'm thinking, I have a month to get out of here. And I don't have anything lined up, and everything I'm trying to line up is not working. And it was such a dark place. And this thought, when you're in the thick of something difficult, you cannot even comprehend that there's life after that. It's like when you're in a dark place, sometimes darkness can feel like it's eternal. Sometimes it feels like your situation will never change because you can't see it. And I remember at the time, this guy, one of my friends, had invited me to a church service. Now at that time I was just I didn't have a desire to be in that environment, but he was like, I just really want you to come check out this church. So I go to a church service, and I have no idea the exact message that was preached, but I'm going to tell you what I pulled from it. So he was using this example of a character in the Bible, and essentially that character, God told that character to stay. That the person had wanted to leave where he was living, and he wanted to just go. Like things where he was living was hard. It was awful, but God was like, no, you have to stay. And the guy was upset because he's like, why would you keep me in a place where there's so many issues going on, where it's hard, it's painful, it's dark? And God told him to stay anyways. And because he stayed and he obeyed, opportunities have presented themselves on the other side of that decision to stay that blew his mind, that he didn't even think was possible. So this man was preaching said, I'm talking to somebody in the audience who wants to leave, and you want to go, and you want to go right now. And he said, I'm telling you, just stay, be patient, and a door will open for you for an opportunity that you couldn't have planned and that you're not qualified for. So of course I'm still skeptical. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I wanted to leave. So I'm getting ready to leave. My friend comes to me. He's like, oh my God, he was talking to you. He was preaching to you, girl. And I was thinking, I was still cynical because I'm like, I don't want to stay. Like, that was the worst thing you could have told me. No, that's not what I want to leave. I want to get out of this now. I'm uncomfortable. I'm mourning. I don't want to be in a place where I feel like people don't like me or people are talking about, like, get me out of here. But I felt like life was giving me no other choice but to stay. And a week after I had attended that church service and heard that message, a peace came over me that resolved that I'm going to stay and I'm going to believe that everything's going to work out. And I'm going to believe that this situation that I'm in and how I'm feeling right now will not last forever. Because here's the truth. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing. Bad moments, difficulties, struggles, circumstances, experiences, they don't last forever. Just like triumph, victory, happiness, joy, those moments don't last forever either. Like, every moment in our life is fleeting. So when I say it won't always be this way, I'm not saying it just from a negative standpoint of saying you won't always go through hard times. I'm saying you won't always have wonderful times. It won't always be this way. So 2 weeks before October, or was it a week? A week before the 1st of October, which is when I told this lady I was moving out. I'm on Facebook, and I had been following these two entrepreneurs for years and years. And they're on their Facebook Live, and they say, we're looking for a personal assistant. And you have to be able to be here in a week. And you have to, a couple other qualifications. And right when I saw it, I was like, that's my job. That's my job. Had I had any experience as a personal assistant? No, absolutely no experience. I had no part in the entrepreneur world, so I didn't know what that was about. I didn't know all the qualifications you needed. All I knew was that was my job. I knew that was my moment. So I called these guys up. I said, listen, this is my job. Like, this, when you guys were on there, I am destined to fulfill this position. Like, you don't need to look for anybody else. This is for me. So they called me and they're like, oh, wow, or, we're super impressed that, like, you're very confident that this is your job. Let's go. They were like, come on down. I had zero interview, I didn't have to provide my resume. And within 7 days, I gave away 95% of my stuff. I downsized considerably, packed my little car, and drove for 13 hours to St. Pete and started a whole new life. Now, in the moments where I was extremely depressed and extremely hopeless, you couldn't have convinced me that something like that could occur. That in a moment, a job opportunity opens up and I make a call, and that call completely shifts the trajectory of my life. You couldn't have told me that, because sometimes when we're going through struggle and we're going through difficulty, no matter how long it's been occurring, you could be going through a difficult time for a month, 6 months, a year, 5 years, however long. When you're in the midst of it, it doesn't feel like there's opportunity on the other side. It doesn't feel like you're going to get through it. It feels like I should just resign myself to this. I should just believe that this is just how my life is always going to be, and nothing is going to happen beyond this moment. But I'm here to tell you it's just not true. It's just not true. That sometimes in life, when we are kept in situations that maybe seem like they're not for us, like you're kept in environments and in circumstances that can sometimes feel like they're filled with pressure and like you're being oppressed and you're being punished. The reality is that you are you're growing, you're learning, your character is strengthening. The belief in who you are and what you're meant to accomplish is strengthening. And one of the things that taught me that's so invaluable is that life changes in an instant. That to come out of something difficult it doesn't have to take a long process. Sometimes it's merely a moment, a phone call, a chance encounter. um, it can happen so quickly, and you just have to believe that something comes after wherever you're at right now, that there's something more. Like, even sometimes as an entrepreneur, I have to remind myself it won't always be this way, because sometimes the struggle is intense, the struggle is hard, the hustle is real, and sometimes it feels like, is there life after the hustle? Is there life after the struggle? How long will I have to go through this? And the only thing that I have to hold on to is just the knowledge of it won't always be this way. And let me just say this from the standpoint of good moments. Like, I was looking at a photo album that my sister had made me of my dad, pictures of my dad, and one of the pictures that just brings me such pause and reflection is the picture of the last Christmas I had with him. you know and I remember, I'm trying to think of like all the events. I mean, there was like a couple memorable moments, but I was like, man, that was the last Christmas. And we don't think about it. When we were taking a picture as a family, I wasn't thinking it won't always be this way. I won't always have my dad on Christmas in this picture. It won't always be this abundant, or it won't always be this normal in this normal family environment. It won't. So it's not just the good moments that you have to remember. It won't always be this way. You remember that about the difficult moments as well. It won't always be this way. And yeah, Lisa, every moment is temporary, every moment. And it's there to teach you something. And sometimes we have to stay in those moments longer than we believe. Because there's been times in my life where I feel like I've been in pressure situations. I'm like, is it me? Like, is it my fault that I'm staying here and things aren't changing and things aren't shifting? But what I realize is that timing is everything. And sometimes we have to stay in certain situations, in certain environments to help us grow, to help our mindset increase, and to shift and to change. So wherever you're at in life today, wherever you're at in life, if you are enjoying abundance, if you are enjoying great things in your life, cherish them, because as is with life, it's not always going to be like that. Sometimes that can shift into difficulty. It takes one phone call to shift that into a difficult situation where your life literally turns upside down. The day before Memorial Day, midday, it was like 3:15 p.m., get a call from my sister saying dad's been in a motorcycle accident. In one moment, everything shifts, everything changes. And it won't always be that way, you know um, and the same thing, if you're in the struggle, like, remember that it won't always be this way, and that um, change can happen in an instant. So cherish the moments that you have, whatever those moments may look like, and be encouraged. Be encouraged that life is filled with ups and downs, and that's okay, because it builds our character, it makes life an adventure. So have a wonderful day, and remember, it won't always be this way.